Well, the title of this video is quite self-explanatory. It's been 5 days since I've left. So how this came about, it happened, well, it started when I posted my last video, which was basically mourning the death of my old self and my old life. After that video, that's where I think everything started to roll for me, like inside my brain. And obviously now it has caught up with me and I finally took the action. The main reason why I left is because I not only outgrown that town, but also the environment that I was in, the life I was living. And I felt so complacent and I was definitely plateauing in my growth. But the whole time I was still holding myself back. Like, even though I knew I should change something and do something about it, I still held myself back because of the guilt that I was feeling. And I just kept thinking about, oh, be practical, Annie, be realistic, wait till you do this, wait till you have this, and listen to this person and that person. So I was very conflicted between that practical, realistic voice and my, like, the Gary V in me voice, you know, where I kept telling myself, you know, I'm 23, this is the time and age to go out, explore, take risks because I have no commitments and such. So I was constantly going back and forth between those two voices since that video, and it was just very hard for me to get out of that tug of war. Not gonna lie, I was very, very comfortable with where I was at physically in that environment. Like, I had a roof over my head, I had food to eat, and the conveniency of that life was just very comfortable for me. And as much as I preach about change and stuff like that, and that I crave change and new adventures, familiarity and being comfortable is still something I value. And I'm just basically a walking contradiction. So I would keep telling myself, oh, you know, take that risk, take that leap of faith. If you saw my Instagram and read my captions, you know, it sounds so motivational and inspirational, where I motivate people to go out and take action to follow their dreams and, you know, work on your personal development and stuff like that. But I personally haven't been taking my own advice. I'm one of those people where I can give out all the advice to the world, but I don't take my own advice. So I talk the talk, I talk so much crap, but I don't do anything with it. I don't follow through. So that is one of my weaknesses, or one of my flaws, is that no matter how much I spew about motivation and I'm a walking Pinterest board, I don't take action because I'm afraid. I'm afraid of change. I'm afraid of shaking up my own world. I'm afraid of the ambiguity of the risk. And I mean, like, who wouldn't be afraid? Who isn't afraid of change? Who isn't afraid of the future and the unknown uncertainties of taking a choice? I was constantly in my head about this until this chain of events led me to being so fed up that I just packed up my stuff, like the necessities that I needed, and left the next morning. It's one of those things where it's not you, it's me. It's totally my decision to leave. And it's not because I blame it on the people around me or I blame it on the town or whatever. I chose to leave. Excuse me. Woo! I chose to leave for the sake of my own sanity. There's no resentment, there's no reservations. I was just very unhappy with myself in that environment. And I'm also grateful for the friends that I have, like, because when I finally made that last minute decision to book my train ticket, I needed to find someone to drive me to the train station. I texted one of my friends who I knew was still in the same hometown, and she graciously drove me at 6:30 in the morning to the train station, even though my train left at 11:30. She had classes at like 10, and so she was willing to drive me. And when I told her the reason why I was leaving, because she was like, oh, another trip, when are you gonna be back, right? And I told her, this is a one-way trip kind of thing. Growing up, I was basically on autopilot mode because being the youngest sibling, my life path has been already laid out for me. Like, I would follow in the footsteps of my siblings. I would go to the same school as them, the same college with them. And because my parents saw that as, developed this formula to make it easy for them, and they thought it would make it easy for us. It's just like going through middle school and high school and even college, just like complacent. And like, okay, it's like very predictable too, which was fine when I was in middle school and high school, but then college, that's when the gears started running in my head, and that's when I started questioning the world and my perspective and the beliefs that I had been taught. I started questioning all of that. And like everyone else, if you studied abroad, you'd know how life-changing that is. That's when I discovered my passion for photography, for design, minimalism, journalism. That's when I started to find myself, and that was back in 2017. So I guess that was the starting point of me finally dreaming about something bigger than this town, something bigger than what my parents have told me about. But I'm not blaming them for anything, because again, this is my choice, this is for me. I know that the way I left was not the best choice, it was not the smartest choice. I wasn't planning on just disappearing like that and never talking to them ever again. I ran away to New York City, and when I got here on that Friday, I got a lot of phone calls, but I didn't pick up because, again, I was just not in the mental state to have a stable conversation, and my emotions were everywhere, so I didn't want to be overwhelmed even more. And I even told them, hey, I have your calls, I'm alive and well, I got here one piece, but I'm not ready to speak to any of you yet because I just freaking ran away from home, okay? Ugh. I just don't want to make it seem like I'm ungrateful for what they've done for the past 2 years. It's like, I just want to take control of my life and just see what I'm capable of and see what I'm made of. They've raised me this far. And I was not gonna keep growing in that same environment. I needed to change the pace for myself and really test my skills and my intuition and basically put their advice to the test. It feels so right. I feel liberated, of course, and that I was made for this. Like, this was supposed to happen in my life. It feels like I'm on the right track finally. As scary as this is as scary as I'm, unemployed and uncertain of what the future will hold, I'm also excited. I'm very optimistic. Since I came here, I, made myself leave the apartment to go explore, to go grocery shopping, and just live, you know? Like, I obviously don't want to stay in the apartment, just wallow in what I've lost. I'm just proud of myself at this point. You know, I'm proud that I've made it here. I'm proud that I've went out to Central Park and go for a run. I went for a run. I don't run. And as someone who has, you know, social anxiety, who doesn't have social anxiety, where stepping outside is just terrifying and coming face to face with strangers is ultimately terrifying. Like, for me to casually go to Central Park and go for a run or take the bus to Williamsburg, like, I have anxiety just thinking about going on the bus. So for me to do these things on my own and taking the initiative to, you know, go out, do stuff, and kind of be productive, I am very proud of myself. These small victories will start to add up, and I know that things will get better. So that's my life update. Yeah, so I think that's gonna be the direction of where this channel is going. In the beginning, when I first started making videos, I was just making videos for fun and was really trying too hard to become a YouTuber, like trying to establish an intro and like my outro and all that. I tried too hard in the first few videos. But now that I'm like here in this stage of my life, I honestly just don't want to try to be like all high-tech and fancy with my editing, you know. It's just exhausting to keep up with. Subscribe, don't subscribe, like, don't like, do whatever you please. Okay, bye.